It's Halloween, October 31, 2022. In just a few minutes, we're going to begin a special broadcast with a focus and orientation towards Latin America. And our very special guest today, our thought leader, is Sergey Gorbatov. And he is, I'm going to read this, Area HR Director for Latin America for AbbVie, a top pharmaceutical company. Their division is Allergan Aesthetics. I'm going to read this. AbbVie's mission is to discover and deliver innovative medicines that solve serious health issues today and address the medical challenges of tomorrow. They strive to have a remarkable impact on people's lives across several key therapeutic areas: immunology, oncology, neuroscience, eye care, virology, that's virology, women's health, and gastroenterology. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, we're going to learn more about it today. So again, these products and services are from its Allergan Aesthetics portfolio. And we're going to begin soon. We're going to be talking about rethinking the role of the organization in employee career development. Now, this is especially the case since the pandemic, when so much hybrid or remote working has gone on, and companies are striving to think about and figure out employee well-being and engagement, and of course productivity, with many people working not in the office but remotely somewhere. So we're going to talk about inside the new career behaviors that deliver a competitive edge to those seeking a fulfilling career today in this new environment. We're also going to be discussing redefining the role of organizations in helping their employees build those competencies. So you sense a shift here, the role of coach, not a manager, but a leader, a helpful resource going forward, nonstop learning. So the question becomes how can we, the organization, how can organizations effectively guide the career decisions of their people towards optimal outcomes, personal, and of course for the organization? We have expert people coming on the show. Stay tuned for Global TV Talk Show. Thank you for being there. This is Ed, and happy Halloween, October 31, 2022. I'm in San Diego, and we have special guests, and just I'm so honored to have these people come and be involved to reach our audience, which is now global. We've crossed the 200,000 audience visit, according to Google Analytics, if we can believe all that mathematics stuff. Since we began Global TV Talk Shows in March of 2020, that's a little over 200,000 audience visits, page views. During, just since September 1 through today, yesterday, October 30, there were about 8,000, according to Google. So that's like up around 35–40% over a year ago. So I thank you for being in the audience, and I thank our esteemed faculty and friends for showing up, because they're coming to learn from you, not from me. I'm the facilitator. Sergey Gorbatov and I have known each other a few years. We were introduced by Angela Lane and Mark Nadich from the big pharma world. Sergey, please introduce yourself real quick, like 30 seconds, and we're going to do a round robin here.
Hi, my name is Sergey, and I'm based in Irvine, California, looking after Latin America, working at AbbVie. I'm passionate about feedback, careers, talent management, performance, and all things leadership.
Okay, tell us just a little bit about Allergan Aesthetics.
Allergan Aesthetics is a business within the big AbbVie family that manufactures, markets, and sells medical aesthetics brands. So, and that help people feel more confident about themselves, and brings the aesthetics and beauty to towards that confidence.
Yeah, so aesthetics means like well-being, right? But more physical, and that leads to mental well-being.
You can say that.
Yeah, well, I could have. Actually, Dave Levine taught me what
That's
to
a good
say.
answer.
And so he's pulling the strings and I'm the puppet here. I'm just doing this. So let's go to Dave Levine. Welcome.
Thanks, Ed. I run a little consulting company called Global Care Experts. We provide crisis response services around the globe, outside the US, for multinational employers. I'm on the board of the European Employee Assistance Forum, and as well as the Asia Pacific Employee Assistance Roundtable. Both associations conduct conferences and webinars on local issues in the EAP counseling field. It's how I came to meet Eduardo Lombardi, who runs, he sort of, in my view, owns the market in Latin America. But I'm starting to cut Eduardo's grass here. I'll let him talk for himself.
Hola, Eduardo. Please introduce yourself.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. And thanks, Ed, and all of you for inviting me here. I'm Eduardo Lombardi, a clinical psychologist in the region. 25 years ago, I founded EAP Latina. That is a company that delivers employee assistance services in all throughout Latin America, especially in Spanish-speaking countries. Yeah.
Now that's really cool. We're going to circle back to you. I want to go to Stephen Howard, a good friend, old friend. Just published his 22nd book. Do you happen to have the cover of that book handy?
Of course, I'm an author. I sleep. I don't quite sleep with the book, but it's with me every other time.
All right, I'm going to put you on a Hollywood close-up. Please hold that up again.
Okay.
Okay, humany. So you invented that word, right?
I created the word humany, and I hope it gets in the dictionary someday. But basically, it's a word that combines humanity, and harmony to emphasize the leading of people, and really for leaders to create workplaces of wellness and harmony. And people laugh when I talk about harmony in the workplace, but I think that should be our next objective, is to bring harmony into the workplace.
So Sergey's, I'm going to say it correctly, Sergey. His topic is today rethinking the role of organizations in employee career development. And a lot of that has to do with well-being, doesn't it?
If you're directing to me, yes, that's I'm sure Sergey would say the same thing.
Okay, Sergey.
I don't think that you can really divorce well-being and employees and careers and performance. If you don't feel well, you don't perform. And if you don't perform, then you're not giving your best, and you're not getting the best from yourself and from the results. So they have to come together. Then it's just good business that the organizations takes care of their employees in all aspects, well-being, mental well-being, and from that perspective, it's just a good thing. It's a good practice to take care of employees' performance, well-being, their careers, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and then the employees in return will give their performance, will give their loyalty, will decide to stay longer with the company. And it goes both ways. Then this psychological contract that exists between the employee and the employer gets fulfilled and renewed over and over and over again.
Tatiana, thank you for gracing our male stage here. This is a pleasure to look at you and see you. Tatiana has a company called greatpeoplemanagement.com. Boy, right on cue, isn't it? So great people management, I'm reading this, tangible and relevant insights about people. So in terms of what Sergey just said and what Dr. Lombardi said and Stephen, you're right in the midst of understanding people, right?
Yeah, I help organizations figure out what makes people tick so that they can put the right people in the right positions. I think you can easily correlate performance to happiness and vice versa if we have the right tools to measure people and figure out and have a real deep, meaningful conversation with each person. I'm really passionate about helping organizations create and maintain the I love my job cultures, because everybody, I think all of us are created unique, but we all have the right to be safe and fulfilled in the workplace. I mean, it should be kind of like a constitution for every organization that everybody has the right to be fulfilled, and it's attainable. We just need to have the right strategies and tools in place, and also the drive, passion, and the wherewithal, I guess, and make it part of our policies as organizations to engage people. And but in terms of performance and who the person is, I always use an example about the rabbit story from the book Soar with Your Strengths. I mean, if you have rabbits and put them in the positions of jumping and running, they're going to give you their best and they're going to be the happiest. But you need to care enough to figure out that they're a rabbit, and that's what they do. If you don't care, you're going to put them on the swimming team and see what happens. They're just not going to like swimming. They're never going to be good at it. So how is that going to impact their mental health? And if nobody cares, that's why people leave organizations.
I was able to meet Tatiana through the grace of Mark Nadich. So welcome, Mark.
Hi, everyone. Great to be with you.
So you're executive in residence at Marquette University, and you're still doing a lot of global HR things. So tell us a little bit about that work.
Well, I think what Sergey and other people talked about, this concept of one of the missions of Marquette is to grow and develop the whole person. So in an academic setting, it's called cura personalis, right? And I think that holds true in what we do every day, not only as HR leaders, EAP leaders, talent leaders. I think that really is important in how we do it. So it's great to kind of be a part of this. As you said, I'm involved in doing some HR work, HR consulting, sit on a number of boards, but my passion is education and mental health and wellness. So that's kind of what I tend to focus on a lot now.
So I met Rigoberto a few months ago. We've been doing a Latin America series, and he's been on several of the programs, brought a corporate guest. Thank you. So Rigo, tell us about yourself.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you all. It's a pleasure to stay with all of you. Well, I'm Rigoberto, based in Mexico City, and I work for CIBT, one of the biggest visas companies in the world. Well, I have been in the mobility and HR industry for about almost 15 years now. So very happy to be here and collaborate as much as we can.
Yeah, welcome. So do you see an uptick in business? You know, I understand, in fact, Stephen Emerson, boy, I haven't spoken that name in 30 years. Stephen Howard had mentioned to me that the auto industry in Latin America, in Mexico in particular, has really grown. Have you had business, immigration business into the auto industry?
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps growing. So far, I think we are almost in the end of the growth, so to say, because the year is about to end. But yeah, 2022 it has been a great year. We look forward to the next year. But yeah, I hope I have the chance finally to meet Steven, who is in Mexico City, and discuss further. But yeah, we keep growing.
So, Sergey, and I'm going to read this so I don't screw it up. How can we effectively, we as corporate managers, leaders like yourself, how can leaders effectively guide the career decisions of your people towards optimal outcomes, both personal and organizational? So you're becoming a coach. That's exactly what Stephen Howard has been talking about in his books. Please tell us more. I know you have limited time, so I want to give the stage to you here.
First, I would like to have us think about what happens if we don't guide employees' decisions towards certain outcomes when employees are on their own. So if I'm an employee and I don't know what my next career step is, or if I'm in a job that I hate, or I don't have a job, where do I go to? I go to a friend, I go to a trusted colleague, I go to a bookstore, or God forbid, Google. And we all know that there is a ton of information with questionable validity, and very often that information will contradict each other. Sometimes there will be a lot of conventional wisdom that sounds nice, but can be very damaging to your career. For example, they would tell you, be your authentic self. Yeah, sounds like very good advice. Well, and we all know as HR people, we fired a lot of people for being very authentic selves, authentically, because they were authentic jerks, very, very authentically. They were rude to people because that's who they are naturally. Or some conventional advice would be play to your strengths and ignore your weaknesses because you'll never be good at your weaknesses. I don't know about you, but I've never fired anyone for their strengths. I've fired a lot of people for their weaknesses. So there is a lot of advice that can be damaging to people's careers. So as employers, we have a responsibility to be honest and open with our employees about what works and what doesn't work, and lay out those rules of the game. If we don't do that, then first of all, employees don't know, and then they get frustrated when they find it out when it's too late. Second, when we are open about those rules of the game, then we minimize the discrepancies and we minimize the variance across the different business units, across different countries, because one manager might say, hey, you know what, 18 months and you need to find a new job. Yeah, I'll be rotating my people very quickly because I believe in development. Another manager would say, hey, you must stay here 4 years because I don't like onboarding new people. I don't like extra work. And then people talk to each other, right? And that's where frustration comes from. Frustration comes from unfair or unequal treatment of employees in the organization. But now, if we establish those rules at the organizational level, then that will be minimizing those differences. Also, if we establish those rules and we say, hey, this is how this career game is played, and you're responsible, we're basically making each employee a talent manager in their own right. Because I don't have a team to manage everyone else's career. I manage career of a very few select individuals, less than 5% of the whole employee mass. I don't have the resources for more. But now I can be honest and open with the employees and say, hey, I'm not responsible for your career, but here are the rules, here are the parameters, and you are responsible. And here's what you can ask of your managers. And here's what you are, here's what you have the right to do. And here are the guardrails, and here are the resources. And now it's up to you. And that's very empowering.
So by that, you're encouraging and actually demanding feedback.
Not only feedback, I'm encouraging action. I'm encouraging agency. I'm encouraging them to make an informed decision. I'm encouraging them to have interviews, both within and outside the company.
So when you say agency, you're delegating them the responsibility, sort of
absolutely,
like a joint
absolutely,
venture.
absolutely. Everyone is responsible for having a career on their terms. And everyone is responsible for defining what success means for them. And that's the first question that I would have with anyone who comes to me to talk about career. What's your definition of career success? And you'll be surprised at how many people can't answer that question.
So you're a coach, you're a leader, you're not a manager.
Me personally.
Yeah.
I'm a manager.
But you don't manage people.
I'll manage. I'll manage the hell out of many people.
You're pulling strings, huh? Puppeteers. No?
I believe in the power of process. A well-designed process can create magic, but a process without a vision and motivation and inspiration is just that. It will create a machine, but a machine needs also the leadership so that it can win the race.
Yeah, great. So I want to go to Dr. Eduardo Lombardi. We have very limited time for Sergey. So do you want to introduce yourself better or ask a specific question at this moment?
I just wanted to add something that is perhaps more near my field. You know, we are dedicated to help employers, workers, and worker organizations when dealing with mental health issues. You know, basically, as an employee assistance provider, what we do every single day is help organizations and workers to resolve mental health problems and financial problems and even legal and other issues. But when I have been listening to all of you carefully, and one thing that I would like to share with you is that in this moment of our history, when we are getting out of pandemia, COVID-19, we have seen many deep changes in the daily life of employees. Think about this: before pandemia, we used to have more or less 10 to 12% of employees would have a mental health problem, a mental health disorder. Today, in 2022, 15% of people to 17% of people are suffering from a mental illness. So when we talk about responsibility, when we talk about how to help people to develop their own career or how to be more happy at work, it is clear that in some way, as employers, we need to help people to resolve their mental health issues. And what today we know is that conditions like depression, like anxiety, like post-trauma, they are growing and growing. Imagine that pandemic, at least in Latin America, has hit our societies very, very strong, and had made that the access to resources is being more and more difficult. Just to share some stats with you, you know that before pandemic, only one out of four, only 25% of people had access to treatment when they need it. Today, after pandemic, we are talking more or less 1 out of 5. So what we are seeing is that mental health issues are growing, yeah, and that the access to proper treatment or to help is decreasing.
I need to go back to Sergey at this moment because of a hard close. Sergey, thank you for doing this today. Could you comment on what Dr. Lombardi was just saying vis-a-vis your managing and leading your workforce?
What Dr. Lombardi is saying is very important. Why? Because we deal with a whole person at work. It means the mind, the body, and the soul. And if one component of that is not there, then we can't get the performance, their ideas, their interactions. It's not. Then it's not happening. This interaction, the healthy interaction, employer-employee interactions among employers, then it's not there. Therefore, I believe that the resources need to be provided by the employers to assist employees to deal with those issues. Why? Because we are not trained, and we shouldn't also pretend to be trained, or we shouldn't pretend to be clinical psychologists or psychiatrists. I've already seen a couple of examples of managers trying to deal with situations related to mental health, and I had to intervene and advise against and refer cases to specialists who can deal with that, because this is really serious, and the statistics that Eduardo shared with us are seriously troubling. And as it relates to Korea, we also should make sure that people feel safe. And people feel that their lives and careers can be balanced, because when you feel safer, then you can rebalance your life, and that will help you to rebound much faster and get your life, your health, your career back on track.
Sergey, thank you very much for being with us today. Dave Levine, would you like to comment?
I think what bridges what Dr. Lombardi is saying and Sergio is saying is traditional social institutions, church, school, family, and government, government safety net. Work has become a social institution, and more emphasis on the social than just the career. And I think they complement Sergio and Eduardo's comments, complement each other well, that work is taking a more important role in a social institution. And even though as Sergio coaches to push agency down to individuals and take responsibility for their own careers, part of that is their mental well-being that they bring to work, that you can't divorce from their performance or productivity and or attendance. And I think it's simply an acknowledgement of that. And as Eduardo was emphasizing, even more of an acknowledgement of that because of what the pandemic has done for us, and put mental health really on the front burner. It's not an antecedent. It's not important because it leads to better work climates or improved performance. More and more employers are getting that it's important in and of itself to be a successful organization.
So I'd like to turn the program over to Mark and Stephen and Tatiana. If we could take it from here, Mark.
Well, I think what you just said, Dave, and Eduardo, and Sergey's comments is there has to be the synergy between it, right? And so one of the things that I did experience in a very, very positive way, because I had the opportunity to work at AbbVie for a number of years and Abbott before that, was I think at AbbVie, and Sergey articulated this, we're very open about kind of what the rules of the game are, right? And I have two grown adults, 35 and 31. They want to know what the rules of the game are, and everyone does, right? And I think being able to create a process or many processes, which includes having process that says, hey, when I see something that may be a challenge, or I build trust in the organization and people are able to come and talk to someone, that they can refer them to the right individuals, right? And in the roles that I was in, I worked very, very closely with EAP, because often those were very difficult and situations. I lost a brother to suicide 22 years ago, right? So part of the reason why he had these issues is he didn't want to tell anyone, right? We knew as a family that, Mike had a number of mental and other illnesses, but it was not talked about. And so there's one thing that I'm very committed and passionate about, is having the conversations, having people be able to get to the help and support that they need. And we're seeing a lot of positive things. We're not there, it's not solved, but we're seeing a lot of change now that I think is helping an organization. So, but I do think the organizations that have built this, what I would call the trust factor, right? And that really leads to engagement. It leads to all these other things. They're the ones that are retaining and keeping the best employees, because the employer is caring about the whole person.
Tatiana?
Yeah, I think what we need to consider in this conversation is the generational differences, because the managers and the leaders, majority of them are still of Generation X and older. And we have millennials and Z generation, and their expectations are somewhat different. They don't know what they don't know. They can be phenomenal workers, but they need to learn not just about the job. They need more guidance, more hand-holding, not in a bad way, but they just need to have those deeper, more meaningful conversations. And they're seeking connection, because there used to be, well, maybe I see it as we used to have two identities, work identity and personal identity. And with the new generations, with technology, with how we work, with small world and everything else in Zooming, it's kind of blending all together, and there's lack of separation. And so all of that generational and technology and all the other things we've talked about here today, and what we read about and the trends, I think it contributes to the fact that there's so much more that's on the shoulders of the leaders. And that's where Sergey was talking about, that you need to create a process and empower organizations and leaders with information, tools, abilities, and the process to help them become this mentor, without having to be psychoanalyzing people or helping them out of a difficult situation. But they need to know, if this, then this. And that starts, to Mark's point and to Dave's point, with a real deep one-on-one conversation, and it starts with caring about each individual person.
Stephen?
Yeah, I would agree with everybody. Although I would also suggest there's a larger issue at hand, and I would like to have particularly leaders in organizations to get away from the concept of not get away from it, but understand there's more than just mental illness, which obviously mental illness has so many negative connotations to it. The precursor to so much mental illness today is what I would call mental unwellness or mental unwell being, and that's like stress, anxiety, emotions, conflict in the workplace. These are things that lead to longer term mental illnesses, but there's so much negative connotation about that. So, you talk about, I mean, Sergey says we can't train people. I disagree. I think we have to train leaders in recognizing the early signs of burnout. And that's, that's very simple. You can recognize what the early signs of burnout is, and then you can help coach people into it if you create the right environment. Unfortunately, today's workplaces, particularly larger organizations, don't have the right environment. Gallup showed last year that 42% of women and 30% of men are unwilling to actively go to their direct supervisor or manager to discuss their anxiety, their stress levels, their emotional upset levels. And it didn't matter about whether the genders were the same or not. So it wasn't like women didn't want to talk to men about it. The genders could be the same, but they're uncomfortable broaching the subject. And unfortunately, leaders today, their attitude, their mindsets are, I have an open door. If you have an issue, come see me. Well, people aren't going to do that. They're not going to proactively come talk to their bosses and say that. Last comment I'll make, Tanya, sorry, you'll be happy to know that research out of Australia last year shows exactly that millennials and Generation Zs are taking this more seriously. They are more willing to take a mental health rest day than the millennials and Generation X and the older generation. So they may not know what to do, but or who to go to sometimes, but they do know that it is important to take a mental health rest day. So
one of my other clients, I'll just be a second. One of my other clients just yesterday sent me a note saying, Ed, you're working too hard. You ought to do a detox day. Digital detox for a day. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tatiana.
I agree, Ed.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen, for that comment. It's interesting. And I see that too with generations, that younger people actually are more in tune with their needs, which it can be perceived negatively by older generation. But so I look at younger kids, they're like, well, suck it up or walk it off. Yeah. Well, that used to work for us. It doesn't work for them.
It's ironic, Ed, though, that the person who sent you that message sent you on a Sunday. So maybe that person also needs a digital detox day.
So it was a Zurich-based customer, Angie Weinberger, who we've known for 20 years. She's a mobility expert. But so she wrote up this thing, sort of a play on words and themes called the 10 Commandments of Managing or Leading Expats. Like thou shalt not talk business on whatever, that kind of thing. So it was really cute, and it's gotten like thousands of hits when we put it out on the network. So yes, Stephen.
If I get just one more point, so that the audience here doesn't think that this is all just airy-fairy and nice to have and what have you. The fact is, and this came in one of the previous books I wrote, but the research really shows that that stress, anxiety impacts the decision-making of us as human beings. And when we get into a react mode instead of responsive mode, we tend to make bad decisions. So, if leaders, if we could de-escalate conflict in the workplace, if we could teach leaders to listen to the whole person, if we could teach leaders how to help people cope with preventing burnout or recovering from burnout, there'll be a lot less stress, and we will get everyone in the workplace will make better decisions, and better decisions will lead to better results. So this is a bottom line issue. This is not just airy-fairy stuff.
Rigoberto, is this BS or does it mean anything to you?
No, I mean, it's super clear what all of them are mentioning. No, I mean, I mean, from my perspective, what I have saw in the last perhaps months is that many companies offer that support in terms of having those mental health webinars or sessions, but perhaps sometimes employees don't want to take them, or they are afraid a little bit about being punished by their bosses in terms of taking the time of that session instead of keep working. So I don't know, it's certainly an issue that I think we should be aware that it could happen. And I read a book about, which is called Two Steps from Being Crazy. And in that book, it tells you that we should be aware that we will have at some point of our lives some mental issues. That's part of our normal life. So
yeah,
that's one of the things that we are not aware, but we should be like as normal. They will happen to all of us at some point. So I think if we are aware that they exist, then we can deal or cope with them properly. So
I want to go back to Dave Levine here, because he's been so gracious and helpful to me, being not only a co-sponsor, but teaching me about this business for years through past contacts. When I was doing live relocation management meetings, and we brought in Caterpillar, EAP, and Chestnut Global Partners and others. So Dave Levine is principal of Global Career Experts, which is an industry leader with demonstrated I'm reading this track record in delivering growth in behavioral health and wellness programs in the U.S. and internationally for Fortune 500 employers. So Dave has been very helpful getting me better known and into Scandinavia and Asia Pacific. And in Germany now, we made friends with Matthias, and we have a major meeting coming up November 28 in Germany. It'll be all about EAP from the German point of view, of course. Dave and Eduardo.
Well, that's right. Eduardo, speaking of Scandinavia, the intro, I met the woman that I brought to that Scandinavian show. What's the name of the woman that worked for you in Costa Rica and relocated with her husband to Sweden?
Yvonne Alfaro.
Yvonne Alfaro,
Right,
Dr.
right.
Alfaro. So talk about an expat challenge. Here she is, fluent in native language is Spanish, growing up in Cuba, relocated to Costa Rica and then to Sweden with her husband, and is counseling and is reliant on communication skills to touch people. But now she's got to do it in Swedish, and the adaptability that she brought, as well as her kids, her family, and her kids who are now going to school learning Swedish. They'll be trilingual family. Pretty impressive. And this cross-cultural for expats, the cross-cultural stressor exemplified with Dr. Alfaro, it's just an additional stressor on top of all the mental health challenges, well-being challenges, I think well put, Stephen, that we all face these days. Just one comment, Stephen referenced Gallup about the bottom line impact of these softer services. Gallup had another study a few years ago that said companies high in engagement and compassionate, loyalty organizations that generally take care of their employees or score higher on engagement have 4 times the earnings per share compared to companies that don't. So it's like the soft stuff also manifests in market value in Wall Street terms, earnings per share, and it's not just compassion that wins the day.
So I have a call coming up with a referral from you, Dave, from Mayam in KL in Malaysia. So that'll be a first time meeting. And then from her, as it developed, I got a new subscriber this morning online from Sydney, Australia. a woman who's president of an EAP company. And I can't remember her name right now without looking it up. So I don't want to go fishing through here while we're talking on the line. But anyway, we've connected this morning at my 5 a.m. So Stephen, what's your next book?
Oh my gosh.
I'm talking about mental health here, right?
This only one came out a month ago, but I've already started working on a co-authored book with your friend Ali, with Ali Sharma, and I are talking about a co-authoring a book. Ali, the ex-Boeing executive.
Ali Shami.
Shami, yeah, and then I've actually have started outlining my next book as well. So it's sad that you asked that question. I just can't stop writing.
No, I was wondering why he never got back to me because I invited him to join.
Oh, he's very busy these days. He's extremely busy.
I bet. Yeah, he's going back at Boeing, only this time as a paid consultant.
Exactly.
So Tatiana, your company has a great name, great people, great expectations. So you have what, a sixth sense about people that you apply to your work?
My superpower is not in what I do, but in the tools that I select to accomplish what I do. And to Dave's point, when organizations are people focused, they will increase their profits. When they're only profits focused, they're not going there. They're swimming against the current.
And they'll decrease their people.
Exactly. It's not an infinite mentality, infinite game growth mindset kind of mentality when you put profits first. And it may or may not be a popular thing to say in a capitalist society, and I'm all for capitalism, but to achieve profits, you really have to focus on people, because without people, you cannot have service, you cannot have products. People are the foundation of every business, and that's how I started my company. I've been in the employee assessment, talent management, leadership development industry for almost 20 years. And Great People Management is a company. We're actually going to celebrate our 10-year anniversary in a couple of months. So I'm excited about that. Time flies. But it's been a remarkable change that I've observed in among my prospects and my network, talking to corporations. They're like, yeah, you were right. Yeah, people should be the focus. It's not about the touchy-feely stuff. Like, Stephen, you're exactly right. People realize, actually myself included, because I like data, I like process, I like numbers. I like to measure people. So I talk about people, measure people, give them feedback and tools. But there's a softer side that we just can no longer ignore, none of us. And that's why I changed my tagline a little bit from great people, great results. Now I help organizations build I love my job cultures, because it really starts at that bottom. If we can live in the world where you ask anyone, not just present company, but anyone, what do you think of your job? And they say, I love my job. Can you just imagine how transformational that would be for organizations, for cultures, and for mental health? So that's what I want to help organizations achieve.
So I want to ask everybody to take a shot at this. Just make believe I'm Elon Musk for a second, and I'm going to fire everybody the day before they're supposed to get millions of dollars in stock options. So let's go to Dr. Lombardi first. And somebody says, wait, I love my job. Then what would you do?
Okay. Now, what I think.
But don't forget, now we are being recorded.
Okay. There is no matter I think that what is going on. No, that look at this today. This special panel that we are having, no, and we are all professionals. We are all very engaged with what we are doing. Yeah, and we all do believe that the work organizations are changing and that they are focusing on people. Yeah, and we do really think that if someone is happy, if someone is satisfied, someone finds in his or her job a way to develop him or herself, that is the way. Yeah, that is the way to do it. Of course, it's the way to do it. At the same time, we are having stats that are showing that their reality is not the opposite, but is near there. Yeah. Yesterday, for example, we read in the newspapers in Argentina a local research that it says that 86 of employees are having a burnout issue. 86. Yeah, that is, I don't know how they measure it. No, I think there must be a problem of the tool with which they are measuring. But the truth is that we are listening more and more people saying, I will quit my job. I cannot stand my boss. I cannot stand this company. Yeah. And at the same time, we are trying to change our company. So that is something that we have to compromise, and we have to do it. Yeah, but we have a very, very difficult reality to change. Yeah,
Dave Levine.
No, just the thought was maybe that 86% dissatisfied survey was with Twitter. Maybe that's where that research came from.
Yeah, Mark.
Leadership matters, and I would just say that, you know, it starts at the top, and culture is everyone, you know, but if organizations set expectations that are not aligned to the person's values, then, you know, they're not going to be happy and satisfied, and they're going to leave. So in this case, I'm glad I don't work at either one of those companies.
Yeah, great. Tatiana.
Completely agree. Change starts from the top. And I cannot tell you how many inquiries I've been getting, not about finding people, putting the right people in the right positions, but it's all about leadership development. Massive investments in leadership development.
Yeah. Rigoberto, why don't you type your email in for everyone before we depart? We have to network going beyond this program. Remember, that's the ROI you're going to get, if not a few chuckles here. But Rigoberto, I know this is not your main work here. You're in immigration. So a lot of people who are going through relocation immigration process, that's a cause for mental illness, isn't it? Yeah, because it's so complicated and crazy sometimes.
Absolutely. I think I have a great example to share with all of you, and this is the one from Spotify. Well, I don't know if they are streaming or what they do, but actually they just post a policy about working from anywhere, because they were having a huge issue on the turnover of people. So it was a turnover of about 50%.
Wow.
And I tell you, from my perspective, I would say everybody wants to work for Spotify, but perhaps that was not the case in the US. So they sent that policy, and now they have zero turnover. But the consequences on the immigration side, or in even other fields which are related with mobility, like tax, social security, and so on, is that you never know what kind of benefits you will have if perhaps you are working for a US company, but perhaps you are based in the Bermudas, which from a new perspective, generational point of view, it's great. Everybody wants to work on the beach with a laptop, but what is happening then in the next, let's say, part of your career, you will not have a social pension, you will not have some kind of tax returns, and so on. So I think there's a lot of things to consider. And I just to finish my participation, I think we're giving too much weight to the companies for being responsible to take care of the mental health, but also we as society, we should care about ourselves and start caring more. So yeah, it's a mix of feelings and certainly of mix of topics, but yeah, the world is moving fast, isn't it?
Yeah, the time is moving fast too. We have about 5 minutes where we should end this thing. But Tatiana, do you use a special test, mental or written, to guide you in your instincts?
Yes, I use a variety of assessments, both to measure individuals, kind of like their leadership DNA or style, or what they're wired to do naturally for job matching purposes and performance management. And also for leadership development, leaders are lacking feedback and they need to get consistent feedback in order for them to address their blind spots. All of us have blind spots, and we have kind of the selective vision or selective blindness, whichever one you want to look at it. So yes, those assessment tools really, really help. Do you want me to name them by name?
Sure.
TXT Select is a Wiley tool. That's one of my favorites to use both in talent management, hiring, as well as leadership development. And I use a couple of 360 tools for leadership feedback and development as well.
So 360 means when I turn around, that's no, people in circle.
All the people around
Yeah.
you, yes. Yeah, so your clients, your peers, your direct reports, your boss, yourself, so that you're not just looking in the mirror and getting feedback from yourself the way you see yourself. You get to see perspectives from everybody else. It's basically how you show up, because you know it's not about how good you are, how your skills are, where your skills are, but it's to address your blind spots. And when you know that, you can take it and then you contact me as an executive coach. I can help you actually put it into action plan, because that's the next thing. It's you've got to take action on all of this information that we're getting from great assessments out there.
So I want to go to Mark and then Stephen. But Mark, in your current retirement post, whatever you want to call it, you're doing executive search, aren't you?
Yes, that is one area that I do some focus on. Yep.
Yeah. So you're using some of Tatiana's tools?
Well, Tatiana and I partner on a number of things. So she's a terrific partner, and the company that I work with, I'm affiliated with Korn Ferry. It's a company called Patina Solutions, and were bought up by Korn Ferry earlier this year. So we are under that umbrella now. So we have the benefit of a global, human capability organization, and they have lots and lots of tools that they use for assessment and feedback. Tatiana and I still continue to do that, but when I'm working on things with them, they have their own tools as well. And they probably have PXT.
Well, thank you, Mark. So as we come to a close, Stephen, Stephen and I have partnered and hopefully will again soon in a TV series called Strive and Thrive. Would you like to say how all that fits in with your Humany ideas?
Well, they both fit in very well, Ed. Thanks. I mean, Strive was talking about how do we, as leaders, help our employees strive to strive and thrive, basically. And I would suggest, based on I love Tatiana's comment about blind spots. I think Elon Musk's Twitter handle should be @blindspots. And I think he should read this, because the subtitle of this is all about it's a mindset, skills, and behaviors for being a people-centric leader. And he's not a people-centric.
He didn't read your book yet.
He's the antithesis of what I'm talking about here.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. I think I should send him a copy and tell him or give him the audio book when it comes out.
I'm sorry I didn't send a waiver around that I don't get sued from you guys because of something that might come out of all this. No disclosure.
We're
But to answer your question, Ed, though, I mean, Strive and Thrive, our shows are all about leading people. And,
Right.
you know, my personal philosophy, and you know, Sergey and I should have a debate sometime, because if he wants to manage the hell out of people, then he's going to manage them out the door. My attitude is managing people is a 1980s construct. Yeah. People don't wake up in the morning. In fact, my social media today is all about people don't want to be micromanaged. Nobody wakes up in the morning wants to be managed. Nobody wakes up in the morning wants to be micromanaged. They want to be led. Yeah. So you manage things, you manage processes, you manage procedures, you manage policies, you lead people. And that's what Thrive's all about.
So,
Can I make a quick comment?
of course,
on this?
yeah.
What it just jogged my memory. This is becoming an interesting change, a trend that I've noticed. When I work in my executive coaching assignments, I notice more and more often that leaders they don't have the direct reporting responsibilities, but they have a lot of cross-functional teams that they have to manage, and they depend on them, and they have to learn, how do I get what I want out of people that don't report to me? And so we always talk about it in the context of inspiring those people, affecting people. You don't tell them what to do. You don't manage them. And that's because of the nature of the work is changing. Again, there's so many cross-functional teams. And that ties very directly what you're talking about, Stephen. It's inspiring, influencing, and to get what you want, to get a result.
So, Dr. Lombardi, is this all too highfalutin, or with regard to Latin America? In other words, it's too up there, wishful thinking, or is it on target for you as well?
Yeah, and it depends on the point of view. If we talk about, you know, big employers, if we talk about multinational companies in LatAm, yeah, we are in target. Of course, this is what is going on in LatAm. But at the same time, those employers are 6% of the jobs in our countries, only 6%. So if we think about the other 94%, yeah, we are still living in poor countries. You know, we live in poor countries. So Latin America today, we have countries with 60% of people that are poor, 14% under the line of poverty. And unemployment is a big issue. Yeah. And then you have near 80% of people working for companies or that really are out of the map, if we of all what we have been discussing today. Yeah. So that depends on what kind of universe you decide to work with. Yeah.
So this show is not political, it's strictly business. However, yesterday's election results in Brazil.
Yeah.
And then the big picture on somebody's front page I saw this morning was like 1 million people out celebrating are acknowledging Lula returns versus the more autocratic approach. So it's people serving people, and you see it in the streets. I mean, an instantaneous response. Nobody organized that; it just happened, right?
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know that in LatAm we are having what happened in Brazil is what is going on in many of our countries. You know, you have how to say, countries divided in two groups. You know, right and left. Yeah, and it's something crazy. You know. But the truth is that, as I said before, if you have a country, for example, Brazil, if you have a country with 50% of your people, poor people, yeah, that their problem every day is to eat, Yeah. So it's reasonable that a president like Lula will win. It's reasonable because they are thinking about what's going on every day. How do I do to eat? How do I do to help my children to clothe on? I don't know how to say it in English. I'm sorry. Yeah, but that is what is going on in LatAm. No, in a country like Venezuela, 94% of people are poor. 94. Yeah. And IT 60, 65. Yeah. So I know that I personally, I work with organizations, I deliver EAP services, and I work with multinationals and multi-Latinas. Yeah. But I have to be absolutely conscious that in my countries, in our countries, we are serving just a small population and a privileged population, people that have access to work, to a job, yeah, and they can think about being happy at work, yeah. But that is not the rule in our countries for 90% of people. Yeah.
So what struck me is, in addition to the spontaneous crowds in the streets, was that in light of what you just said about the number of people who are, they want more care, they want more service, they only got 51%, and the established politician got 49 point something percent. So why was it so close? Is it that, you know, I'm not asking you to pull a magic hat here, but you know, but so many people are just afraid to speak out. So enough were vociferous enough to do it.
Yeah. You're right with what you are saying. At the same time, what I think that is in Latin America, we have a long, how to say, long years of how to say, this kind of politicians that are popular, you know, that they sell what people want to hear, yeah. But at the end, el popularism, I don't know how to say it in English, has failed time after time. So people want to believe, but at the same time, they do really realize that that is not the way to follow. So they are giving their votes to other people that they don't trust, but at least it's different from what we have had historically. Yeah.
So I invite you to say a sentence or two in Spanish, because we do have a global audience. Most speak English, but it's okay to please do it in Spanish.
The term or the idea?
No, the idea, yeah.
The idea es en Latinoamérica, desde siempre ha tenido gobiernos populares, ¿sí? Donde realmente la gente ha volcado y ha creído en ellos y los ha votado a través de los años. Pero todos esos gobiernos populares, ¿sí?, han fracasado. Entonces hoy estamos en una situación peligrosa porque la gente también vota personas que no confían, no creen en sus ideas, pero los votan igual porque están desilusionados.
Well, in my role as a broadcaster and producer of Global TV Talk Show, muchas gracias.
Gracias a vos. Muchas gracias.
Yeah. Mark, would you like to sum up, and then we could say goodbye?
Well, I just think it's always great to just connect with everyone who's on this call. And we have so many things that we do have commonality on. And yet, as Eduardo very eloquently pointed out, there's big differences in the world where we live. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of, how do we manage that? And to that point of, you know, when you're talking about, you know, how people are managed or leadership, that's very different. And we always have to kind of find that. Having worked in global roles, I spent a lot of time in Latin America, at least working there, not living there. And you have to have a different set of capabilities and agility to adapt to the environment that is changing every day. And so it's a big challenge, but it's always good to have an opportunity to learn from all of you.
Thank you all for being on Global TV. I welcome you back. This is
Great.
Ed in San Diego signing off. Mark is in, where are you? You're in Kenosha.
Kenosha. Or
And-
Kenosha, either one.
Right, a Jewish accent or something. I don't know. Okay, Dave's in Gull Lake. Has it gone below freezing yet there?
Every night for the last couple of weeks, yeah. Water temp's
Okay.
about 48 degrees and getting chilly.
Yeah, well, it's going to be 80 here in San Diego today. Tatiana, thanks very much. Stephen, let's stay in touch. And let me know when you're going to be in Palm Springs again.
Will do.
Okay,
Will do.
good.
Thanks.
Rigoberto, thank you. See you again.
Yes,
Dr. Lombardi,
thank you.
please come back and let's do more in Latin America together.
Great. Whenever you want. Thank you. Ed.
Okay, great.
Thank you all.
This is so good. I don't
Thanks.
want to end it, but I've got 2
Adios.
other shows to do.
All right.
And then I'll detox loud.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.